Yeah. Good morning, sir. Our topic is about the failure of the reform movement. Um, I'm Cadet Siglos Jid Christian. I'm going to report on the first slide, sir. My report is why the reform movement failed. The 10 peaceful years displayed after the execution of the Gomez, Burgos, and the Zamora. It was a peaceful period on the surface because the Filipinos were cowed into silence by the Spanish authorities. There were threats of persecution for those who would oppose of certified Spanish rule. Underneath, there are discontent not only among the poor but always among the education and the well-to-do Filipinos. The masses were disconnected because they remained poor and burned. With heavy tax, the educated and the wealthy were disconnected because of the ambush of the Spaniard and because they were not free to air the complaints or even allowed to participate in the administration of the government. As a result, the educated and the will to live or for Spain where the was freedom and there they studied and worked for the introduction of reforms in the culture of Philippines. That's all. And next reporter is Robel Silorio. Kasunod Bads.
So these are the reasons why the reform movement failed. Failure of the reform movement. Number 1. The Spanish high officials in Spain were too busy with their own problems to listen to the collective voice of the reformists. Number 2. The reformists in Spain and in the Philippines did not have necessary financial means with which to make their campaign effective. Funds were particularly difficult to get because most of the patriotic Filipinos had no money to finance such a big project. Number 3. The reformists themselves were not united. There were jealousies among them. So the movement failed because of the more pressing problems faced by Spain. Lack of funds and the loss of enthusiasm of its members also led to its failure. Graciano Lopez Haina berated the Filipino community for allegedly not supporting his political ambitions. He left the movement and became its nemesis. And that's all our report, sir. Members, Jed Valliflores Siglos, who read the first slide, Rovil Baay Silorio, who read the second and third slide, Rogelio Lance Silvila, fourth and fifth slide, John Carl Tano, sixth and seventh slide, and me, Remigian P. Soriano, eighth and ninth slides. That's all, sir. Thank you.
The important Filipino reformists were Graciano Lopez Haina, Jose Rizal, and Marciano H. Del Pilar. They were the great triumvirate. Lopez Haina was the great orator, reformist, and national hero who is well known for his newspaper La Solidaridad. Next is Jose Rizal was the great thinker and writer. Jose Rizal has become a symbol of the Philippine struggle for independence. And Del Pilar was the great political analysts and journalists. They were all young men who went to Europe to study. In the course of their studies, they involved themselves in the cause of their country. Next is the La Solidaridad. In English is the Solidarity. La Solidaridad was official publication of the propaganda movement. It released its first issue on the 15th February 1889 CE in Barcelona, Spain. Cristiano Jaina Lopez was the first editor. Through the Sol, the reformists were able to express their ideals and desire for reforms to protect the safety of their families, and reformists used on the pseudonyms in their writings. Marcelo H. Del Pilar wrote under the name of Plaridel. Jose Rizal used the name of Laong Laan and Dimas Salang. Ang Laong Laan ay nagkakahulugan reverse for a long time o laging handa, and Dimas Salang ay ang pangalang sagisag na kanyang nakuha noong siya ay pumasok sa Freemasonry noong 1883. Ito ay nagkakahulugang untouchable o hindi masalang sa Taal Tagalog. That's all. Thank you. For the next reporter is Giancarlo Tano.
So, good day, sir. I Cadet Second Class Tano reporting. So, this is the continuation of the topic counter-reform movement. The impact on the Spaniards are the speeches, newspapers, and books of all propagandists, especially Noli and Fili. Was Tremudius. Dr. Rizal was regarded as the novelist among the Filipino reformists. He described the events happening in the Philippines in his two novels, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. These two novels were considered the Bibles of Filipino nationalism. To counteract the influence of the reform movement, Jose Rodriguez wrote a pamphlet entitled Kaingat Kayo, warning the Filipinos not to read Rizal's novels. Anti-Filipino writers claimed that the Filipinos had no civilization before the Spaniards came. The powerful and influential newspaper of the friars counteract whatever impression the Sol had made on the Filipinos. With the Rizal deportation to the Pitan, many Filipinos were intimidated. Later, some were arrested for writing or expressing supposedly subversive ideas against the mother country. So, a reform movement is a type of social movement that aims to bring a social political system closer to the community's ideal. A reform movement is distinguished from more radical social movements such as revolutionary movements which reject those old ideals. And the ideas are often grounded in liberalism. Also, they may be root and socialist, specifically socially democratic or religious concepts. So, in the next slide, these are the reason why the reform movement failed.
The reform movement, also called propaganda movement, began in 1882. It lasted up the early months of 1892 when the important Filipino reformists returned to the Philippines, like Rizal, who founded the La Liga Filipina. The reform movement which they started included the idea to assimilate the Philippines as a province of Spain. As such, and not as a colony of Spain, the Philippines would be represented in the Spanish lawmaking body called the Cortes.
The Filipino would become Spanish citizens who would enjoy all the rights and privileges by all Spanish citizens. As Spanish citizens, the Filipinos could not be treated cruelly by the friars and the Spanish civil authorities. This move to make the Philippines a province of Spain and the granting of Spanish citizenship to Filipinos was called assimilation. Assimilation of the Philippines would allow the Indios to be finally called Filipinos.